listening to A State of the Union, estate planning made simple. Here's your host, Brad Wewell, from Texas Trust Law in Austin, Texas.
Hi, this is Brad Wewell with the Estate of the Union, the podcast of Texas Trust Law. And in this podcast, we do kind of an eclectic mix of legal topics, movie reviews of all things. We just posted a movie review on the movie Civil War. And then we spotlight charities, particularly Austin-focused charities that you probably have never heard of, don't know anything about, but you need to hear of, and you need to know what they're about. Today, we have Jennifer Long, who is the executive director. Is that an official title?
Co-executive director now.
Co-executive, all right. Get some help.
With Patty McCabe.
You need some help. Of Casa Marianella, which is something that Cindy and I have helped support. My wife Cindy was on the board for a number of years. Mm-hmm. And again, you probably haven't heard of Casa Marianella, but it's a very, very interesting, really important charity here, 501c3 in the Austin area. So, Jennifer, thanks for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Let's start with the first question. What in the heck is Casa Marianella?
So we are a shelter for the people who come to the Texas border who are trying to get to safety from other countries. And so in 2023, we housed 575 people from 48 different countries.
578 people from 48 different countries.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. I mean.
So when we started back in 1986, it was a completely new concept that there would be refugees coming to the Texas border, and there were people who started coming from El Salvador and Guatemala because of the wars
Central
there.
America, I can see that. But
right, but now it's people from all over the world. We recently got a resident from China who had made his way up from China to Brazil to the United States.
Wow. Well, again, I've been there, and I've been to Casa Marianella, and I've seen your operation, and there is such a variety of people. Now, with managing that many individuals from different locales, I mean, first of all, how do you communicate with people that may have a language that, frankly, is so obscure that most people wouldn't know how to communicate with?
Fortunately, most people speak one of the European languages in addition to their original language. In fact, the majority of people we're serving right now are from Africa, and Africans tend to speak 5 and 6 languages, each of them. But they'll speak English or Spanish or Portuguese or French, the majority of people. And if they don't, there's usually someone else from their country who can help interpret. And all of us who work there speak at least one of those European languages.
Okay, you'd have to.
Right.
Right, you would. How many people work there?
About 40 people work for Casa.
That's a big place.
40 people,
Wow.
14 houses that we're working out of now.
All right, let's kind of break this down because we'll get to all those details. We're going to step way back because the border is a controversial topic.
Of course.
And are the people that, well, let me back up a little further, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. We're a long way from the border. I mean, we're not Eagle Pass. We're not the Valley. We're not El Paso. And so why are people coming here as opposed to being put on a bus and bus to Chicago or New York or whatever? I mean, why are people coming to Austin to your shelter?
So I think it might be good to answer another question first, which is the reason that we have so many people coming to the border. Mm-hmm. So everyone who's coming to the border and asking for safety is given paperwork authorizing them to apply for asylum. So they're all documented. They're all here legally. And one of the problems with why we have so many people at the border is that everyone is required to come to the border in order to apply for asylum. So it seems like one of the proposals is that there be an asylum office open in Colombia or in Mexico or in Brazil, somewhere else that people go through, because it puts all this pressure on the U.S. border.
So they would go there be screened.
Right.
And then they can come directly here and not have to go through the screening process again in Eagle Pass or the Valley.
Right,
Okay.
because there really are way too many people coming to the border. There's not any infrastructure to handle it, and
Right.
it's not working well. And of course, it's happened rather quickly, right? Because just 40 years ago, no one was doing this.
Sure.
And so, it's hard to change structures. The reason people come to Casa Marianella is that we're one of the only shelters of our kind in the country that's providing housing for people and helping them get resettled, of the people that come to the border.
Okay.
So, so people are attracted to that.
So the people that come to Casa have a legal status.
They do.
All right. And how do they find you? Because again, I'm crossing the Rio Grande at Eagle Pass or McAllen, and I'm thinking there's some tents down there. I'll just stay here. Yet somehow they get up here. Yeah, how do they find you?
Well, they can cross the border legally by getting on their phones and making an appointment with an immigration agent.
Okay.
And so people are trying to do that because now there are penalties for trying to cross the river. It's funny, communications, back when we started, we had one payphone in the kitchen in the 80s, and you had to have quarters.
A payphone in the kitchen.
And
sure,
everyone had to share it, and the phone would regularly fill up with quarters. Well, now people get phones before they get food.
Oh, that's interesting.
And, with WhatsApp, people are able to use phones basically for free. And so there's lots of communications going on. And furthermore, there's the internet now. So people Google immigrant shelters and up we pop,
And so do they, so we've got the Border Patrol down at the border, you got immigration and naturalization. Do they put them on a bus to get them to Austin, or a little farther to walk? How physically are they going to get here?
The vast majority of people are not staying in Texas.
Sure.
And the buses that are being sent to other places are going to New York, Chicago, Boston, Washington, D.C.
Right.
I mean, currently in New York City, they have 66,000 asylum seekers in shelter.
Wow.
Here in Austin, we have 200.
Wow, that's a big difference, isn't it?
So yeah,
Good
so
night.
no one's being bused to Austin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So that's a much more manageable number.
Right.
It feels like a lot.
Well, I'm sure.
But
Golly, yeah, and all
66.
200 are probably at your
Yes,
shop.
they're at our place. Yes.
Gosh. Okay. So when Cindy was on the board, and I was hanging out, there's some. Back to the point you made, there were a lot of Africans,
Correct.
and still are.
There are.
Ethiopians, it seems like Eritreans. How do they find out about Casa?
Through
Word of mouth.
through their friends. Okay, so basically what's happened with Africans is, as you know, there's a lot of unrest in Africa, a lot of persecution, and traditionally those folks would head for Europe. Europe is like shut down, and especially now they've taken in so many refugees. They're so close to so many parts of the world that are unstable, and now with all the Ukrainians,
Oh my gosh, yeah. I hadn't
they
thought
are
about
like,
that.
doors are closed, guys. I mean, they're going to extreme efforts
And they
to
have to get on a boat, cross the Mediterranean, which may or may not make it.
right, and so they're paying the Libyans to patrol those waters and put those people in prison. Like they're really, really trying to stop it.
Huh.
So that has put people in a position of looking for something different. And so there's this other route that people can take that's much longer, much more expensive, which is to go to Brazil. And then work your way all the way up to the United States
Wow.
to ask for asylum. But of course, it would be better if they could apply for asylum somewhere else.
Sure.
And didn't have to
sure.
come all the way to the border.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
so because that's a very dangerous journey.
They're walking.
Well, they're walking or riding buses or doing whatever they're doing, but they have this terrible part they have to go through in between Colombia and Panama called the Darien Gap.
I've heard of that.
And they walk through there, and that's very bad. But people say actually Mexico is worse because of the cartels and the kidnappings, because all these people are displaced, and they're all trying to seek a place where they can become safe. And there's not very many places receiving them, but there are many people preying on them. There's
I'm sure.
global criminals all over the world.
Shakedowns or whatever. Right.
Whatever. I mean, there are many different versions of how to get the little bit of money out of these people that they've got.
Yeah, right. One more squeeze.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Let's go back. and we'll get more detail on Casa Marianella and what you're doing. You mentioned something about, I'm only 71, I'm a young 71, and so my hearing is still relatively decent, and I thought you said there are 18 houses?
14
there you
houses
go.
that we're
We'll
working
off on
on.
that. 14 houses. So give us a sense of that. And I know more about that than any of our viewers or listeners might. So how are the houses set up and kind of where are they too?
Right, so these are residential houses, and we started with one house in 1986, and that was our first house, and that was our only house for 18 years.
That was up at East 7th Street?
Yes,
Gunter.
exactly, on Gunter Street.
Right.
And so we've acquired houses one at a time over the years, and we have a couple of houses, 3 houses in fact right now, that are also being loaned to us to use. And so I think the idea, the concept is that we want to have these home-like facilities that are not institutional, where people have a kitchen they can cook in, and people that they live with, but not a huge barracks kind of situation.
Sure.
And that
Build
has
community.
worked really well. Yeah, and we're decentralized, so we have our adult shelter in one location, our women and children in another, a family shelter in another.
Okay.
And we just recently bought the Mary House Catholic Worker when Lynn retired.
Yeah. So Mary House Catholic Worker, Lynn Sanders.
Yeah.
But what was her other name?
Goodman.
Goodman
Strauss.
Goodman Strauss, that's
Yeah,
right. I knew
that's
Lynn
right.
for years. And let's just take a second on the Catholic Worker Program.
Yeah.
Because that's something, again, hardly anybody's ever heard about. You want to give it a shot?
Sure. So I lived in a Catholic worker community when I was 20, and it was founded by Dorothy Day.
Right, in Philadelphia, as I recall.
In I think New York City.
Okay.
And
That's
the
right, it was New
idea,
York. That's
the
right.
idea, and Casa Marianella is a Catholic worker light, I would say. But the idea is personalism, like personal care for people and hospitality, and that's what Dorothy did, welcoming people in and trying to treat them like human beings in small settings, and in the case of the Catholic worker, living in poverty,
Right.
which we are not, and we try to pay a living wage. So,
Right, sure. But it was an interesting program.
It's a beautiful program, and Lynn devoted 40 years of her life to it.
She did. And well, that's good. You have that house now too.
Well, it was a beautiful thing because the diocese owns that house.
Okay.
And so we purchased the house from the diocese, and then they devoted the funds from it to her care.
Oh, nice. Okay, yeah, because she was impoverished and she was sick and all that too. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So back to the houses, and one thing I remember about Casa, but again, I could remember this wrong, is that you're also in the process of trying to push them out.
Oh, correct.
Okay,
Yes.
let's talk about that.
Yeah, so our mission is to provide hospitality and promote self-sufficiency. So actually people stay with us for 3 months, which is a sprint when you consider that you've just arrived in the country, you might not speak the language,
Right.
you don't have a work permit yet, you have this complicated legal process that you need to go through.
Right.
And so during those 3 months, people have access to health care in Austin, which is a beautiful thing.
Nice.
We have the MAP card, and people can get free health care when they first arrive. We have a legal clinic where we can help people apply for asylum and get to all their appointments in San Antonio. So everyone is eager to fulfill all their obligations to immigration because people want to do the right thing.
And you mentioned go to San Antonio because that's where the immigration office is.
The courts are in San Antonio, and
Right.
so are the deportation officers, and
Okay.
people have to meet regularly with their deportation officers. So we're sending vans to San Antonio every day. And then we have English classes at night. And at the end of the time that they're there, we help them find housing.
Okay, and a job, hopefully.
They can't find jobs yet.
Okay, now that's interesting.
You
Tell
know,
me about that, because obviously I don't know what I'm talking about when I'm talking about that.
Well, because people usually don't have work permits for up to a
Okay.
year, but they're able to do day labor. So day labor is legal.
Okay.
And so people can kind of find odd jobs here and there, and
Okay.
that's okay. And that's kind of how people have to figure out
Wow.
how to make it when they first arrive.
Okay, and they do.
And they do, because, I mean, they're very motivated.
Yeah.
You know, their survival is on the line, and they've made this long journey, and they're very grateful for the opportunity to do it.
Well, and you've got to move them out because you have more people coming in.
Oh yes, yes. It's a constant. Yeah, I mean it's the challenging part of the job. It's like, welcome, okay, you can do it.
Hit the road. But the 3 months is a stabilizing thing for them. You mentioned children and
we get the kids in school, and I mean it's really one of my things I'm most excited about is that a year and a half ago we started a family shelter so we could actually serve two-parent families and also single fathers.
Oh wow, no, that's interesting.
So we
Wow,
had never
that's
been
cool.
able to serve single fathers before.
Right, and you're getting those too, I'm sure.
And we've got a couple of those, and no shelters take single fathers.
But you do.
We do.
All right.
And there's very little shelter at all in Austin anymore
Right,
since
right.
the Salvation Army is, changed hands.
That's right. Yep. Okay. This is great. Good to know about all this stuff. So, what is the most challenging part of your work?
I think the fact that we don't have any backup. We have precisely one other organization that can sometimes take people when we have too many people to serve.
Okay.
And we regularly have too many people to serve. That's Casa Juan Diego in Houston.
Houston. So not here.
We in general, we provide transportation funds if people have a solid place to go. We're not sending people to New York City to fall into the shelter system,
Right.
but we will send people if they have a family member or a solid place to go, somewhere that will receive.
Okay.
So we don't have much backup though. So
Right, doesn't sound like.
it's kind of frightening sometimes when too many people show up.
Right. Sure. And you're it then. Did I hear that?
That's it.
You're the shelter for Austin, Texas, Travis County, Central Texas.
Yeah.
Gosh. It's a lot of work. I consider that be a challenge.
And most states don't even have one shelter. So there's only like a handful of shelters in the whole country.
So let's go back, way back. What inspired you to do this in the first place?
I think just having an awareness of injustice and recognizing that for me, I was more drawn to or called to doing direct service than trying to change policies.
Sure.
That strikes me as being a very difficult thing to do, and
a much longer road for sure.
right. And so it's very gratifying. I mean, we're working with a population of people who are so highly motivated, and for the most part, we have a super high success rate. So,
And your point's well made. These are motivated people because it took so much to get here in the first place.
Right.
And they're happy to be here.
right.
But they want to now, they're not sitting around smoking cigarettes and drinking beer and just kind of getting a sign and put it on the freeway.
Definitely not. And, one of the things that's kind of beautiful is that people really believe in the United States sense of fairness and justice. They come here with this belief, and the things that we have to offer in this country, I think, are not the things that most Americans think about. We think more about our material wealth, but the fact that we wake up in the morning and feel safe is a luxury that most people in the world don't experience. The fact that we have economic opportunity. I mean, we have people that go through our shelters that start businesses. You can't do that in many countries.
Right.
That women have rights and no one is allowed to hit them in this country is huge. And that we have social mobility. We see people who come in through Casa Marianella and they're buying homes and starting businesses and their kids are going to law school.
Wow.
I mean,
this is the American dream. It's the American dream.
It is, but it's not so much about the material thing. It's about the fact that we really are this open society where people have a chance, and that's a beautiful thing.
That's great. Well, there you go. Excellent. That's excellent. Let's talk more about. Give me some examples. Give our audience some examples of maybe a couple of stories that have stuck with you over time too.
Well, we have a young woman staying with us right now who is from Eritrea. And Eritrea is the most repressive country in the world, maybe outside of North Korea.
It's in Africa.
It's in Africa.
Right next to Ethiopia. Right.
And in Eritrea, when you reach 17 years old, you join the military. And essentially, it's like a massive enslavement of the whole population by the government. So Helen, who lives with us, was brought into the military when she was 17. She's 27 now. But I can't imagine how young she looked at 17, because
Right.
she looks awfully young at 27. And she's moved to a totally other part of the country, far from her family. And she's working for essentially nothing. They don't have access to the internet. They don't get passports. They're not allowed to leave the country. And if you leave the country, if you escape, it's penalty of death if you get caught.
Wow. Wow.
So she escaped. She spent 3 years in hiding in Sudan with an uncle. But all this time, she doesn't have identity papers. And then she goes to Ethiopia, spends another year, still not able to really stabilize or
So
get safe.
a person without a country.
And ultimately, her her uncle or some family members came up with the money for her to make this journey, which she made by herself, through Brazil, all the way up to the United States, where she then spent 4 months in an immigration detention center. And during that time, she heard of Casa Marianella, and we were writing letters with her and sent her a letter inviting her to stay with us. And so she came to us. And just yesterday, we went to court in San Antonio, and she's probably going to win asylum. I mean, she has a very strong case.
It's a pretty strong case, I would say, right?
But she now has a work permit, and she now has a job, and she's dealing with a lot of trauma, but she's going to be all right.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, if you're in a cab particularly, Cindy and I go to the airport, we'll take a cab, whatever, as opposed to Uber sometimes, just because we want to talk to the cab drivers who are very interesting people.
Right.
And an amazing number of cab drivers that we talk to they all know about Casa. And that's the term we took, Casa, and they all know Miss Jennifer. But it's just a surprising number, and I guess and that's a job they can keep. That's
Well, yeah, a lot of the East Africans like to be drivers. So,
oh, is that right? Huh.
well, they like cabs, they like Ubers, they are truck drivers as well.
Okay.
Now, the truck driving is the most, profitable one.
Sure, lucrative,
So-
right? Sure.
But that's a tough lifestyle.
Yeah.
But we got people doing that. So
Wow. How do you raise money?
we get some funding from the City of Austin and Travis County.
Okay.
We get support from religious organizations and from individuals and other groups. We write grants to foundations. And, we try to be as frugal as we can to make the money
Sure.
stretch.
Because you have to buy food for all these people too, right?
We buy food, we pay for legal expenses, we pay for a lot of transportation. Sometimes we pay for hotels, like we got a family of 7 from Venezuela 2 days before Christmas,
A family of 7.
A family of 7, and I was like, do you realize how hard it's going to be for you to get on your feet? But we put them in a hotel for 2 months, and some folks from a couple of different churches helped support them. And in 2 months, they moved into an apartment. They're paying their own way. Their kids are in school,
Wow.
and they're doing it.
And they're glad to be here. They're
And
very glad to be here.
Yeah.
Wow. And you can go on the Casa Marianella website because we do planned giving for 501c3s, so we have some planned giving stuff that we've helped you guys with on your website. So if you're inclined to give money directly, you can do that. You can leave them money in your trust, your will, which is a nice way to do it too. But you have needs every day. If one of our viewers or listeners, Jennifer, wanted to contribute, how would they go about doing that?
They just need to go to our website. There's a link on the
Okay.
website, and
CasaMarianella.org.
that's it.
And let's spell Marianella.
Marianella. So it's like Maria Nella, Nella, all one word.
Okay. So this is something that, again, I think it's important, and one of the reasons why we wanted Jennifer on this show is to give really a ground level view of the border problem. And it is a problem. You think it's a problem, and I think it's a problem, and I'm not sure what the answer is, but there is hope and help and thought and encouragement.
Yeah.
And that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, again, as you said, the American dream, and they want to go to work here, and you guys are facilitating that.
That's right.
Wow. And how many employees?
40, 42, something like that.
And they all get paid every other week, something like that?
Yep. And we do. We also have AmeriCorps members. We have Jesuit volunteers.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, we do a variety of things.
What is your annual budget?
A little over $2 million.
Wow. Wow.
So.
Wow. I guess they need to find the checkbook again and break that thing out. My gosh, holy cow. Well, what a marvelous, exciting job you've got and ministry you've got, because it really is a ministry.
It is a ministry, and I feel so grateful to do it. I work with amazing people, and our residents are an inspiration to be so resilient after everything that they've been through. It's quite,
I would imagine so.
Quite an amazing thing.
I just, it's got to be, and yeah, they're here. They're happy to be here again. They wake up and they're not afraid, and they are not going to get beaten, and all that stuff. Gosh, I mean, stuff. Right? We don't even think about. I mean, just would not ever think about. But that's their life until
That's
now.
Yep.
Gosh. Okay. Wow. Well, this has been a great.
Thank you so much.
Great podcast. Well, thank you very much,
And thank you
thanks
for
for
your
all the
support.
work you're doing and all the stuff that all the people you've helped. How many people do you think? Last question. How many people do you think you've helped since you started in 1985?
Good question. Thousands, though.
Yeah, thousands for sure. Thousands.
Never have worked on calculating that number, but
It'd be hard to do now, I'm sure. But yeah, thousands and thousands, I would bet.
20,000, 30,000 maybe.
Wow. 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 Well, that's great. And then their kids grow up too, and
sometimes those kids come back, and that's really nice.
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, they
Do
come back and they say, "Oh, my dad told me he lived here, and I wanna come see you." So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, great, Jennifer. All right, this is Casa Marianella, Marianella, and .org. If you can't remember, shoot me an email, and Brad at TexasTrustLaw.com. We'll make sure you get the information on and the website to go and make a contribution. What about, okay, one more last question. What about volunteers?
We also have volunteers. We
Okay.
have group volunteers and individual volunteers.
Group volunteers, what does that mean?
We have groups of 10, up to 10 people from churches, businesses, schools,
Okay.
who come for a 2-hour session in which we do an introduction to our work, meeting the residents, and then doing a project like organizing donations or painting something. So most weekends we have volunteers, even during the week. And we have individual volunteers as well who come once a week and help for a couple of hours. So we're happy to have volunteers, and volunteers can email me at volunteer@casamarianella.org.
Okay, there you go. There you go. So if you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for some way to have an impact, ground level, again, ladies and gentlemen, this is the rubber meets the road type of ministry. Volunteer at Casa Marianella, casamarianella.org. And yeah, it's a worthwhile endeavor for sure. I want to thank Jennifer.
Thank
again,
you.
Fantastic. And thank Wade, our director.
Thank you, Wade.
And thank you for watching and listening. And we'll be back again for another episode of the State of the Union soon. And if you have any questions, let us know. We're at TexasTrustLaw.com. We just do estate planning, probate, special needs, and asset protection. The first visit's free. We've got 4 other offices. We're happy to see you there too. Have a good day, and again, thanks again.